Did you know that the secret to transforming your life's biggest challenges into your greatest opportunities might have been discovered over 2,000 years ago? Imagine facing life's storms with a calm so powerful, nothing could shake your inner peace. Sounds like a superpower, right? Well, it's not just a fantasy. This ancient superpower is an age-old philosophy that's as practical today as it was in the bustling markets and marble halls of ancient Rome and Greece. Stoicism teaches us that while we can't control every aspect of our lives, we have absolute power over how we choose to react. And in today's world where uncertainty seems to be the only certainty, these teachings could be the anchor we've all been searching for. What if I told you that Stoicism is more about action than thought? It's about living a life filled with purpose, resilience, and happiness, no matter what life throws your way. It's not about suppressing your emotions, but understanding and managing them to lead a more fulfilling life. Picture this. The year is 170 AD. The Roman Empire is at war, disease is spreading, and betrayal lurks in every corner. The weight of an entire civilization rests on the shoulders of one man, Marcus Aurelius. But amidst the chaos, he doesn't crumble. Instead, he picks up his journal and writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." You're dealing with stress, facing adversity, or simply looking to find more joy in the everyday, stick around. Today, we're diving deep into 10 Stoic principles, uncovering its timeless wisdom and discovering how it can transform not just the way we think, but the way we live. 1. Master your mindset. Everything we see, everything we feel, none of it truly has power over us. It is our mind that breathes life into events, giving them meaning, shaping them into suffering or strength. The battlefield of life is not fought in the world outside, it is fought within. And the first step to mastery is realizing that you are not at the mercy of your thoughts. You are their ruler. Marcus Aurelius, a man burdened with the weight of an empire, wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." A ruler of millions understood that control over the external world is an illusion, but control over how we think, how we react, that is absolute. And yet we willingly hand this power away. We let a stranger's words dictate our peace. We allow failure to break us. We give fear the keys to our future. We must ask ourselves, are we the masters of our own minds, or are we prisoners shackled by impulse and emotion? Epictetus, born a slave, yet freer than most kings, left us with a truth that burns through the fog of self-doubt. Man is not worried by real problems so much as by his imagined anxieties about real problems. The mind, left unchecked, becomes a cruel tyrant, spinning illusions, painting nightmares where none exist. But when trained, when disciplined, it becomes the greatest weapon in our arsenal. So, how do we master the mind? We begin by questioning every thought before we surrender to it. When fear whispers, "You will fail," we must ask, is this true, or is it the mind clinging to comfort? When anger flares, we must pause and ask, will this reaction serve me, or will it enslave me? We must practice stillness, not the absence of thought, but the awareness of it. We do not let the storm of emotions control us. We step back, we observe, and we decide. Because that is our power. Seneca reminds us, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. If suffering is born in the mind, then so is peace. And we, Each of us hold the key. Master your mind, and nothing in this world can master you. 2. Build self-discipline. We live in a world that constantly tempts us with ease. Comfort calls to us like a siren, whispering that there is always tomorrow, that we deserve to rest before we've even begun. And so, we delay. We let weakness creep in, mistaking fleeting pleasure for fulfillment. But deep down, we know the truth. A life without discipline is a life without direction, without strength, without meaning. Self-discipline is not about punishment. It is about power. It is the silent force that separates those who merely dream from those who build. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man of his time, understood this well. He wrote, "Just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter. The right thing is rarely the easiest, but it is the only path to mastery." Discipline begins with a single choice, the choice to act, regardless of how we feel. Too often, we wait for motivation, for inspiration to strike like lightning. But emotions are fleeting, unreliable. The disciplined do not wait. They rise, they work. They push forward when every part of them aches to stop. Epictetus reminded us, "How long will you wait before you demand the best for yourself?" The best version of ourselves is not built in moments of ease, but in moments of resistance. When we wake before the sun, when we push through exhaustion, when we silence the voice that says, "Not today." Each act of discipline is a brick in the fortress of our character, and yet we often surrender before we begin. We tell ourselves that discipline is too difficult, that the struggle is unbearable. But Seneca exposed this lie long ago. It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, but because we do not dare that they are difficult. So we dare. We stop making excuses. We train the body to endure hardship. We train the mind to reject distraction. We forge habits that align with our purpose, not our comfort. And over time, what once felt impossible becomes second nature. Discipline is not a restriction, it is the very thing that sets us free. A life ruled by impulse is a life of chains, but a life ruled by discipline, that is a life without limits. Number 3, build emotional resilience. Life will test us. That is not a possibility, it is a certainty. Loss, betrayal, failure, and suffering will arrive at our doorstep, uninvited and merciless. We have no control over when or how these storms will strike, but we do control one thing: how we endure them. Emotional resilience is not about avoiding pain. It is about standing unshaken in its presence. It is about refusing to be broken by what is beyond our control. Marcus Aurelius, a man who faced war, plague, and the death of his children, understood this deeply. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This is where resilience begins, not in fighting against reality, but in accepting it. When we resist what is, we suffer twice, once from the event itself, and again from our refusal to accept it. But when we embrace the truth, no matter how harsh, we free ourselves from unnecessary torment. Pain is a teacher, though its lessons are cruel. It reveals what is weak within us. It exposes illusions of control and entitlement. It strips away the false belief that life owes us comfort. And in doing so, it offers a choice: to crumble or to rise. Epictetus reminded us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. If we react with despair, we sink. If we react with anger, we burn. But if we meet hardship with resolve, we grow stronger than we were before. Too often we allow emotions to rule us. We mistake them for truth, letting them pull us into chaos. But emotions are not commands. They are visitors. They come, they go. We observe them, but we do not obey them. Seneca warned, "A raging storm turns the sea to foam, but beneath the surface, the depths remain calm. So must we." Chaos may swirl around us, but within we must be still. Hardship will come, it always does. And when it does, we do not shatter, we do not retreat, we do not beg for an easier road. We look forward, we stand firm, and we endure. For, remember you will die. Death is the only certainty. It walks beside us from the moment we take our first breath, yet we spend our lives pretending it does not exist. We chase distractions, numb ourselves with trivialities, and convince ourselves there will always be more time. But time is slipping through our fingers, vanishing into the abyss with every passing moment. The wise do not run from this truth. They embrace it. They whisper to themselves, "Memento Mori." Remember you will die. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man of his time, reflected on death constantly. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think, not as a source of fear, but as a guide." When we remember our mortality, we strip away the meaningless. Petty grudges lose their weight. Fear of judgment fades. We no longer waste our days chasing approval or clinging to comfort. We begin to live with urgency, with purpose, with fire. How many moments have we squandered? How often have we postponed life, waiting for the right time to begin truly living? Seneca warned us, "You are afraid of dying. But come now, how is this life of yours anything but death?" We must ask ourselves, are we truly alive or merely existing? Are we filling our days with what matters, or are we sleepwalking toward the grave? Death is not an enemy. It is a mirror. It forces us to see clearly, to measure what is real. It reminds us that wealth, power, and status are illusions that vanish like mist. It teaches us that what endures is not what we have, but how we have lived. Have we loved deeply? Have we acted with courage? Have we honored our values even when the world tried to shake them? To remember death is to remember life. It is to wake up. It is to live each moment fully, because each moment could be our last. One day we will draw our final breath. We do not know when. But until that moment comes, let us make sure we have truly lived. 5. Turn obstacles into opportunities. Life will test us. It will place barriers in our path, shake the ground beneath our feet, and strip away what we once thought was certain. Many will see these moments as the end, proof that fate is cruel, that fortune has turned against them. But we are not like the many. We understand something deeper. The obstacle is not the enemy. The obstacle is the way. Marcus Aurelius, a man burdened with the weight of an empire, understood this truth well. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." What he meant is simple. Within every hardship, there is a hidden power, a lesson, a path forward that only those with the strength to look will find. What seems like misfortune is often an invitation to grow, to adapt, to become something greater than we were before. We have all known suffering. We have all faced moments where we wanted to turn away, to curse our fate, to ask, "Why me?" But the better question is, what now? Seneca reminds us, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. When we stop resisting hardship and start using it, we become unbreakable. Every setback becomes fuel. Every failure becomes wisdom. Every challenge shapes us into something stronger, sharper, and more capable than before. We cannot control what life gives us, but we can control how we respond. And in that response lies our greatest power. So when the world throws obstacles in our path, we do not stop. We do not bow. We smile, because we know this, too, is an opportunity. 6. Cultivate inner peace. The world around us is chaos. It moves without mercy, pulling us in every direction, demanding our attention, testing our patience, feeding our fears. If we are not careful, we become prisoners to it, enslaved by the noise, the distractions, the endless turmoil of things outside our control. But we are not here to be dragged by the current. We are here to master stillness. Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by war, betrayal, and the weight of an empire, found his answer in a single truth. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. The battle for peace is not won by silencing the world. It is won by silencing the storm within. When we stop reacting to every disturbance, every insult, every change in fortune, we begin to see clearly. We begin to live freely. Seneca reminds us, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. How often have we been tormented by things that never came to pass? How many nights have we lost to fears that existed only in our minds? When we let go of the need to control the uncontrollable, when we stop placing our happiness in the hands of fate, we discover something extraordinary: calm, clarity, an unshakable presence that no outside force can touch. Peace is not given to us. It is something we must cultivate, something we must choose. And when we do, we walk through life untouchable, not because the world has changed, but because we have. 7. Practice self-reflection. We move through life at a relentless pace, rushing from one task to the next, barely pausing to breathe. But in our pursuit of progress, how often do we stop and ask ourselves, are we truly living as we should? Are our actions aligned with our values, or are we simply carried by the currents of habit and expectation? Without reflection, we risk becoming strangers to ourselves, lost in the noise of the world, never questioning whether we are on the right path. Marcus Aurelius, despite ruling an empire, made it a daily ritual to examine his thoughts and actions. Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if you will ever dig. Self-reflection is not an indulgence, it is a necessity. It forces us to confront our flaws, our weaknesses, our inconsistencies, not with shame but with the intent to grow. How can we expect to master ourselves if we never take the time to understand ourselves? Seneca believed in the power of nightly reflection, advising, each evening we should call ourselves to account. What weakness did I overcome today? What virtue did I cultivate? This simple practice transforms our days from mere repetitions into steps toward wisdom. It allows us to refine our character, correct our course, and ensure that we are not simply existing, but evolving. To reflect is to sharpen the blade of our mind, to clear the fog that distorts our vision. It is the difference between wandering blindly and walking with purpose. If we do not examine the life we live, we risk reaching the end of it without ever having truly lived at all. 8. Build mental toughness. Life does not get easier. The storms do not subside simply because we wish them away. Challenges will come, hardships will test us, and pain will find its way into our days. But the question is never whether we will face adversity. It is whether we will endure it, whether we will rise in the face of it, whether we will sharpen ourselves against it. Mental toughness is not a gift, a choice to stand firm when the ground beneath us shakes, a choice to move forward when every fiber of our being screams for retreat. Epictetus reminds us, difficulties are things that show a person what they are. It is easy to appear strong when life is kind, but true strength is revealed when life is ruthless. When things do not go our way, when failure stares us in the face, when the world seems indifferent to our struggle, this is when we see what we are made of. Will we break, or will we forge ourselves anew? Seneca tells us, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." We must not fear hardship, but welcome it as the fire that tempers steel. Every struggle endured is proof of our resilience. Every obstacle overcome is another layer of strength added to our soul. This is how warriors are made, not in comfort, but in challenge. To build mental toughness is to refuse to be ruled by weakness. It is to acknowledge pain, but not be owned by it. It is to meet suffering with unshaken resolve. And in doing so, we do not just survive life's trials, we transcend them. 9. Detach from material desires. We chase, we crave, we accumulate. Yet satisfaction remains just beyond our grasp. The hunger for more never ceases. We tell ourselves that happiness lies in the next possession, the next achievement, the next indulgence. But does it? Or are we simply tightening the chains that bind us, mistaking gold for freedom? Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." The more we desire, the more power we give to the external world to dictate our peace. A man who needs little is a man who cannot be controlled. A man who clings to material things is a prisoner of his own making, living in fear of loss, mistaking ownership for fulfillment. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Yet we are conditioned to believe that happiness is something we must acquire, that we are incomplete without certain objects, certain luxuries. But look around. How many who have everything still feel empty? And how many who have nothing still walk with peace? It is not about rejecting all possessions, but rather stripping them of their power over us. Owning things is not the problem. Being owned by them is. The world can take everything from us in an instant, but if we anchor ourselves in something deeper, we remain unshaken. True wealth is not found in what we hold in our hands, but in what we carry within us.